Hello and good afternoon to you all. Um, we'll begin the meeting shortly. I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar on Earth observation for marine and coastal areas management. My name is Ignatius Kweku-Williams. I'm the training officer at the University of Ghana, GMES-Africa Project, and I'm going to be your moderator for today. Today, we are excited to explore the many applications of Earth observation and geospatial technologies and how they can help monitor and manage our coastal and marine environments more effectively. We'll be hearing from very distinguished experts from a collaborating institution, which happens to be Digital Earth Africa, and we'll be having Dr. Kenneth Mubia, who will be joining us in this morning's session. I will have to remind you that this is a two-part session. In case you registered for or you were interested in joining the French session, this will be happening after this one at 1400 hours UTC. So you can join in for that in case you made that mistake of joining the English session. But for now, we would dive into some of these presentations coming from Digital Earth Africa and how they are using Earth observation to solve some of the issues relating to the marine and coastal areas. Before we get into the main issues or the events for today, I would like to draw your attention to certain controls that I'd like you to take advantage of. At the top of your screen, or probably at the bottom, you are going to have options like the chat and the Q&A option, which will be available for all of you. You can introduce yourselves and where you're joining from in the chat section, and hopefully you can connect and forge collaborations between yourselves and whoever is joining us in the meeting today. If you have any questions pertaining issues that would be raised during the presentations today, I'd urge you to put them in the Q&A, and we'll try as much as possible to address these questions in the Q&A section. And I will raise it up with our speaker for today once he is done with his presentation. Before I introduce him, this presentation or this event is being organized under the umbrella of the GMES-Africa Project and with strong collaboration with Digital Earth Africa. I'd like to just take about 5 minutes to introduce the GMES-Africa Project, after which I would hand over to Dr. Kenneth Mubia, and we'll go directly to the agenda for the day. Just quickly to verify if you're all hearing me loud and clear, and also if you are seeing my screen currently. Just a thumbs up or a reaction would be fine for me. Okay, that's great. So to start off, I'm going to be talking about Earth observation support for GMES and Africa, marine and coastal operations in North and Western Africa. Like I already did, my name is Ignatius Williams, and I'm the training officer under this project. So under the GMES and Africa projects, the idea is to be able to connect the large target groups of users to certain data and service providers from around the world. And by doing that, we're able to get Earth observation data, satellite and in-situ data, and establish and produce certain information that is relevant for a wide category of stakeholders, like farmers, like fishermen, like researchers, like NGOs, and whatever institution or umbrella, anybody that is interested in using this particular information. GMES in Africa has evolved over time, starting from 2013 under the MESA project, evolving to the phase 1 and currently the second phase of the GMES in Africa project. This is mainly looking at 18 countries, starting off from 12, including some North Africa and Central African countries. Now we're looking at the full scope of West and Northern Africa. Now, what is the Marine and Coastal Area Management Project for the North and West Africa? Like I already said, we have a consortium of 18 countries, and the focus mainly is looking at fisheries, marine meteorology, coastal ecosystem monitoring, and oil spill assessment. We have 10 partners, including the University of Ghana, making 11 distributed across the region. And this partnership is hoping to promote the uptake of EO activities, training, knowledge management, and so on. This project is centered around key pillars such as data infrastructure, the provision of service and products, as well as providing the much needed training to be able to utilize this and creating awareness based on the objectives of the project. We have fused most of our data sets and our information into 3 categories. So we have coastal services, fisheries, and also what we know as the oceanographic services. And this is making use of a lot of satellite imagery from the Sentinel suite, from Sentinel-1, 2, and 3. And we also include some numerical models in the production of these services. Some of the information coming from these services include the generation of potential fishing zones, mapping of fishing density, provision of daily forecasts to artisanal fishermen, and also the monitoring of the coastal landscapes like coastal erosion, mangrove distribution, and coastal land cover. So I'll just briefly run you through some of our services and the success that we've chalked so far. To be able to obtain information on the ocean states and some of our services, we have developed a mobile application, which is available on both Android and iOS platforms. This application gives you information on the ocean states and is also available on our geoportal. This information is available in both English, French, and Portuguese. For our fishery services, we are looking mainly at potential fishing zone maps overlaid with fishing vessel traffic information. So this is coming with what particular fleets are fishing in which countries, EEZ, and all this information is provided to the monitoring control surveillance units or the Ministry of Fisheries residing in each of the 18 countries. We also have some examples of the service that you see here as to where fishing activity is densely populated or occurring. When we come to the oil spill services, we also have oil spill maps that are released on the daily, which started in the first phase for North Africa. So we are seeing examples of oil spill activities happening in Egypt, Libya, and Tunisia. We've also generated a portal where you can log in to be able to witness these activities also as they happen. For our coastal services, we look mainly at mangrove monitoring, and we create some sort of bulletins and policy briefs to be able to inform stakeholders about the occurrences within the coastal environment. All this information is shared with national institutions with the mandate to monitor and protect these areas within the 18 countries. We also work with regional organizations like PRCM, the Abidjan Convention, the Fisheries Committee of West and Central Gulf of Guinea, certain canoe associations, and also the MMC Zone F, which is responsible for security, maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea. We produce a lot of bulletins which are able to guide stakeholders in activities and also planning and monitoring activities within the marine and coastal areas. And we do a lot of capacity building activities which we are involved in. We do give out grants to support PhD and master students. We will be advertising soon for the second set of postgraduate grants, and you might want to look out for them when they advertise in case you are enrolled in such a program and you'd wish to benefit from it. We also promote collaborations with private sector through startups, and we encourage most often to have women and the youth be involved in most of our activities that we roll out. In case you want to reach us, these are some of the dissemination channels that you can get information on our products and services, or you can alternatively write an email to us and we'll serve you with most of the information. So thank you very much for your attention so far. I'm going to move directly to our focus for today, and we are going to be hearing from Dr. Kenneth Mubia. Good afternoon, Dr. Mubia. He's joining us all the way from Nairobi currently, and I'd like to hand over the floor to you. So you have the audience, Dr. Mubia.
Thank you so much. I'm actually joining you from Zambia, where we have an engagement. It's this is really a continental program, and it's for everybody. And just checking if the director of ceremony can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ignatius and the team at the University of Ghana, and the great collaboration that we've had with GMES in Africa. And from Digital South Africa side is to share about our programs which are complementing the great work which is being done in the continent. So once again, I'm Kenneth Mubea with Digital South Africa, and I've been with the program the last 5 years. And the mission of the program has to be complementing other existing initiatives. And we are providing Earth observation data in analysis-ready format, and we are working across all sectors, from agriculture, from land degradation, from urbanization to coastline. And we serve all the sectors, and the objective is to empower decision making. The program is based on open and free data policies, and we aim to empower everybody, leaving no one behind. So this is a continental program. We launched it at the Regional Center for Mapping in Nairobi, Kenya, around August 2019. But previously, we had a pilot program just to understand the data ecosystem. And what we were informed is to actually work closely with different partners. Like in Ghana, we're working closely with the Ghana Statistic. And also we have a partner in Senegal, Center Suvi Ecologie. We have a partner in Tunisia, and also currently now hosted in South Africa. So as they say, it's a program for everybody. It's running on the platform Amazon Web Services based on Open Data Cube technology. So we have continental services, which means that we've actually co-developed these services, and I'll be able to show and share with you much more. And in the context of today's presentation, focusing on coast and marine. So the program is providing analysis-ready data, and many times we've undertaken our programs and we realized we spend almost 80 to 90% of our time processing the satellite data that we can actually get. So the program went ahead and with the Committee of Earth Observation Satellites, following all those protocols, providing the data in analysis-ready format. From the US, we have the US Geological Service, where we have the Landsat 5, 7, 8, and 9, providing a lot of information, for example, unlocking over 35 years of data. From the European Space Agency, we have the connections to Sentinel-1 and 2, and we continue to listen to our stakeholders to actually bring on board Sentinel-3 and 5 to address the various needs of the continent. So our program is more driven with the national country priorities, as well as aligning with the African Union Agenda 2063, as well as Sustainable Development Goals. And as you can look in this particular example, we have some of the products showing you mapping the coastlines, looking at crop production, and also looking at the mapping of water. It's very key for Africa. In the context of today's presentation is more coast and marine, and this gave the idea, our program, to come up with a coastline service, informing the context that our countries have really expanded over time, and also the coastal communities remain very vulnerable to the impact of climate change. As you can see, some of us are affected by cyclones, depending on where you are, and things have just changed over time. So this could mean that we'll have rising levels, and also coastal erosion is very key, and our service is trying to map these over 20 years to actually show how we can best support countries in their coastal management. From the Digital Africa side, now the coastline service was borrowed from our partners in Digital Earth Australia, who work to fund the program, and the Helms Trust. And these digital coastlines was developed and validated now with partners in the continent, and special credit to our partners in Senegal, Centers of UoG, and our partner in Regional Center for Mapping in the East Africa. So as you know, just maybe as a quiz, we have several countries covered with the coastline. The number will be 38 to be specific. And also, this is the first service that we have, which shows you coastlines, for example, from the year 2000 to actually the year 2023, over 23 years of data. So this will mean that we'll be able to show you the coastlines have changed, the hotspots, and the rates of change, which are very key for governments, stakeholders, and even the youth who are working closely with the different community projects. So you'll be involved in different programs, either you're working with mangroves, either you're working supporting fisheries, and so on and so on. So it means this is a real service that can show how much the coastlines have changed. Even some of them we've noted going over 100 meters. It's very key for Africa to be well positioned with this information. With the terms of validation, this was very key, borrowed on a program which was being implemented by the partners and World Bank, the West Africa program covering over 11 countries. And our partners, Centers of UoG, helped very much in terms of validation. And what this meant was that the service could work, and based on the numbers that we got and the close collaboration. So what we noticed, the shoreline is very key for any program, and also working with the different communities and partners to highlight and get more inputs, as well as improve it as much as possible, so that we include all the countries and also close collaboration with them. The coastline service has also accessible to Digital Africa Maps as a service, and also is available on the sandbox. But the best part also, you can also access it on your other web services. You could be a developer, you could be working on your other platform, you'll be able to access this data. So the rates of change and where. So the question is, you could actually zoom into anywhere in the continent and actually view and see the dynamics. So the dynamics will mean over 20 years of data. Has there been changes? Has there change in mangroves? Has there been human development, or has there been some progress as well? Because our governments are putting measures, and over time we can actually help and keep track on where we need to work together with the communities. So these uncertainties are there, but also we can also identify some of the impacts, and also we can actually rate some of the programs that have been implemented and seeing how there could be impact, or where we actually have helped and also provided the necessary legislation to make sure our coastlines are well secure. So Digital Africa has a set of tools and algorithm as well, looking close to the theme of our program today, looking at mangroves and coastal erosion. On the mangrove analysis, our platform uses different data sets from Sentinel to Landsat to create that background of data. And then we have reference to the Global Mangrove Watch data and also modeling the tidal heights. We're able to get more impacts about how mangroves have changed over time. And for our region, we can see how this has happened, and also closely working with different programs and youth programs and community programs to help in the restoration of mangroves. So it's all about a peaceful coexistence in Africa. In terms of coastal erosion, the algorithm actually maps this using the different data sets and gives an indication of how much has changed over time, and working closely with different agencies to show this and show the impact of different interventions that will be put in place. And in the context of our GMES and MarCNoWA countries, we could look at Sierra Leone, and in this context of Freetown, and this having background of this, where we had an atlas created by World Bank and the Environmental Protection Agency. I was privy about this time when we actually showed some changes over time and some of the hotspots around Freetown. As you know, Freetown on the Atlantic is quite, the dynamics of the waves could mean a lot to the mangroves, and there's just some highlights of some of the areas we were working with them. Just maybe the purpose of the presentation is good also to show how we can actually access the platform on the sandbox. This is just a small walkthrough. It's a very nice step where you just change the extents of your area. This is an example of Guinea-Bissau, for example, and as you can zoom in, you can actually see some of the areas that you can focus on. For example, Copito, And then when you go through, you'll see road load land Sentinel-2 at 10 meters, which is very key and also informative. And loading also global mangrove watch data, modeling the tidal heights as well, step-by-step process. So this means next time you're using the platform, you could actually explore more some of the areas that you know best, or even some areas that you want to see how much has changed over time. So it's very key for coastal management as well as working with different agencies and partners, and also foster a lot of collaboration. So here you can see them some gains and losses and new mangroves, which also have been planted with the different groups, community, government. So it's all a collaborative effort, the technology, the people, and providing the insights, which are very key from space to village. Now, in the context of the Digital Africa map, we could look at this example where you could look at the coastline for the whole continent. And as mentioned earlier on, we have at least 38 countries covered, the coastline service. And this is just looking at our region in the context of today's example, the countries. And also, if you zoom in, you could see some of the hotspots on some of the areas, and just a small step-by-step a walkthrough in our website, digitalafrica.org. When you go to the platform and you go to the Digital Africa map, you'll be able to have this nice interface, very nice, going to the coastlines and loading the data. And very nicely, you could just zoom into some of the areas and you can see the colors will tell it all. The colors red will give you some areas of hotspots, and blue, relatively good areas. And this is just a good guideline going around our country's focus of today, GMES-MarCNoWA and partners. And so there's quite some insights. And so you could see some coastal areas which have been more affected. And this is just the data itself, and also working closely with the different partners to provide, data for validation, and also just creating some insights on what is possible from remote sensing data, and also what is possible on the ground with the different agencies, just empowering them and also learning from them how things are and which areas we need to focus or improve to make the data much better to update their coastal management plans. So the earlier we are prepared as countries is best, because then, as you can see, the impacts of climate change are here with us. The rainy season, sometimes we know it's this time, but we could have changes over time, or even could have times of excess rainfall and how it affects some of our coastal areas. For example, looking at the coast of Sierra Leone, Liberia, for instance, in the times of July, August. So this quite nice and informative tool, as you've seen. These you could actually do for those countries, and just as an idea, you could get an indicative of a country with the longest coastline in West Africa, and you could actually see how the coast has been impacted. You see the coast of Monrovia, as I mentioned, Liberia, and moving to Sierra Leone. The times Freetown are quite affected, and also in Guinea, moving upwards, see some areas more than 10 meters change over time. So this is quite an informative resource, and you could access it from anywhere. You could even measure the distances. So this is really nice, moving around and seeing changes over the car, going up, and then you'll be able to see how this changes over time. You could also change the background as well of your map, and this will make it even more interesting, but also depends on how your internet connectivity is, and also changing the background, even doing some comparison, etc., etc. So this is just an example of the coastline service. And moving forward, is to see how you can access our platform on the Sandbox, which is a Jupyter Notebook platform for developers and also early persons in GIS. And here you're able to run like some notebooks, coastlines and coast erosion. So for example, looking at coastal erosion, we have this algorithm which will take you through using the different data sets and now some Sentinel-2, putting in some element of Sentinel-1 for cloud cover and also adding an element of Landsat for areas which might have not had data. So based on this, we could look at an example, for example, Fuven in Ghana, quite a hotspot area. This one I'm borrowing from Ignatius examples that he normally uses for our workshops. And also based on that, we could also just look at how an example we have on the Sandbox. So this notebook is there on the real world example, coast erosion, and uses those 3 data sets. And when you run it, it will be able to just prompt you to change, your area of interest. For example, this one will be our area now, and focusing closely on the algorithm and loading the different data sets as much as possible and making sure that it will take some time, but it will load. So we just choose a small area. We go part by part. You'll be able to see how it would run, different indexes showing you just the costs, and able to extract the shoreline for you for maybe 2 years, and you could actually see, you could even generate it for the last from 2000 to 2023, and it's quite an informative resource. And there's also a scientific note where we are borrowing from Digital Earth Australia work, which has been actually been published. So based on that, you could we have many examples as well. Just go into coastline example. We could look at the coastline of Dakar. Just as an example, we look at the coastlines itself, the lines, and also the rates of change, just an indicator as well. Then this, we could also look at an example of generating coastline itself. So the other one was coast erosion. So the coastline itself is on the datasets folder, and this is just an example of an area. I chose Tangier in Morocco, just for example, and going through, be able to generate some coastlines and giving you the years that it has been extracted, and looking at, as the colors will tell you, areas which experience high rates and areas which actually have been of good quality over time, because as well, the government has put in place different measures, and you can even extract an area as an extent. This is just an example of where you can create a transient and get a value that you can actually use or generate a CSV table for your further analysis. So as you can see, it's quite an interesting platform. It's an example of a coastline in Nigeria. And this is just how you generate the transient extent. And these are examples of the tutorials that we've come up with. We've had them since the year 2020. We have them in English and French, and we had a session earlier in the year where we had these in English and French as well, partners. So Digital Africa is working closely with aligned partners like Esri, and we have our datasets on the Africa Job Portal. This means we work closely with an industry leader to make sure we are reaching other communities. So this is just an example of the Africa Job Portal showing our datasets. And this is just an example of the dashboard they have developed for Digital Africa, where you can actually look at the coastlines and over time see the rate of change. See over the countries and some hotspot areas, as you can see. And also when you click on each country, you can actually understand its coastline and also how much coastline and areas have been impacted, and areas which have grown, and areas which have been retracted. So maybe just for knowledge, you can actually see one of the countries with the longest coastline has been that of Somalia. But as you can see, there's also been some change on their coastline over time based on vulnerability. But as you can see from this one, Madagascar and Mozambique have been mostly affected coastal erosion. We can actually look at impacted shoreline as well, based on this graph. You can see just as an indicator of what is generated from remote sensing data, but also with the caveat that there's some time that we need to work closely with different agencies to do some validation or of other checks in the data. It's quite a very good dashboard, and I know the moderator will be able to share with you some of the slides in PDF. So this is just an example of Nigeria, for example, and you can see the data generated and the area that has been impacted by coastal erosion and some of the property zone investments that have been affected. Indeed, our countries are vulnerable, and this is just an example of South Africa, where they use some of our data sets to update their coastal risk and vulnerability map. And also they use it in the reporting of the Sustainable Development Goals. And one of the hotspot areas was in KwaZulu-Natal. So that's an example. Then further, there's a journalist who was also interested in using some of the data and was actually trying to look at the flooding that happened in Durban in the year 2022. And they mentioned that this was noted to be a yearly event, and they could tie this to high population changes in the big cities and how this particular area has changed over time, and why people have been moving closer to the area, but they are actually really vulnerable. So this is an example of our champions, one of them in Nigeria, looking at mapping of mangroves in Niger Delta. And she was part of the Africa Women in GIS group where she was mentored, and now she's a mentor, where she's actually finished a PhD from the University of Otago in New Zealand. So it's always good to say that our people are doing some great work. Some of the amazing opportunities are there. This is an example of how Digital Africa is able to support ship detection using Sentinel-1 data. As you know, Sentinel-1 data is cloud-free property and can be very useful in maritime monitoring as part of some of the work GMES-MarCNoWA is doing, and the highlights they provide around Egypt and North Africa. So this is just an example of an incident that had occurred in the Suez Canal around this time, and where there was a blockage and running through the sandbox. We could actually see this example where we have the ship detection tool, radar, in the real-world example, and this is just the extent of the area as an example. We could actually change it to another city, and this is just an example of an incident, and we'll be able to load Sentinel-1 data. And this, as you remember, is in analysis ready data, so it's just running through, and you could actually see some of the ships captured signals, and then removing the layer of water from the water observation from space. Would actually see an output where it has been actually been masked, and providing more information. Be able to provide the vessel count before the event and after, and this one just showing me the blockage on the right side. So it's a very nice also tool, and even identifying some shipping lanes over time, and see the general trend and where the signals are captured. And you could change this example for any city. So we also have the other example of, so this was ship detection. And I think I also had another one for Tangier, for example, and Morocco. So here the extents will be slightly different, and also just changing any time. The times are at least within a month. You could actually see how it's going. I think my screen is moving very fast. At least you'll be able to get an idea that we're able to see some of the shipping areas, just as an example, because of the time. And then also you can see the export of the data as a JSON file, giving you an indication of these areas in blue, where the shipping vessels are actually seen. And it's, of course, a very busy port in the north of Africa. Also, based on engagements, we had engagements with different countries. For example, Mauritius earlier in the program, it was actually to see how we could actually show from space using central data how much oil spillage can be seen. And in this context, it was around when there's an event was seen. And based on this, there's a notebook which shows you actually how much to capture this information. And this is based on the area of extent, as well as remembering the dates of the key event that happened. and creating that visualization to actually see the areas before and after an event, and actually capturing it very well from space, from principal component analysis, capturing the water extent, and also then even adding the element of mangroves to see if that area was really actually affected after this particular event. So it's quite also informative to see the different possibilities, and also that the program also has developed online courses, different partners, that is co-development in English and French, and also just giving you a tool on how to access them on the digitalafricawebsite.org. Then go to the training help, and once you're there, just click to the introduction course. When you click start the course, it will be able to take you to some of the modules that we develop with partners, and also more specifically, we have a course in coastline, and very informative course, and also others that will help you get insights into Digital Africa and the work that we've been able to do. And my colleague will be able to present the same in a few in French. That is Professor Joseph Tushimire, based in Rwanda. So Digital Africa really is key to grow, and these are ways of connecting with us on the website, as well as the live sessions that we have, and also like the session yesterday was covered by my colleague, looking at irrigation areas. And next week, my colleague based in Ghana will present how to connect your work with Google Drive based on an API. And also the end of the month, we'll have some sessions in English and French with Esri to demonstrate how you can actually leverage more GeoPortal and how to access some of that data. This work has been possible through the great partnership and support of our donors, especially the Australian government and Helmsley Trust, who've been with us, and other key partners, especially the universities, GMES-Africa, through African Union and other partners. And every day we are adding the numbers so that we make sure we sustain the program based on this close partnership and impact. So these are my contacts, as well as a short QR code there. If you scan it, it will take you to somewhere where you'll be able to fill a survey, or also you'll be able to we'll be able to get your details, connect with you. And the best part also, we can be able to share with you the presentation, and also thanking GMES-Africa, MarCNoWA, through the University of Ghana, of champion this great work and making sure that we connect all the countries and the great collaboration. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Madase.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. It's been a pretty insightful and loaded presentation. There's a lot of information that has just been crammed up into this particular talk that you've given. But as you were speaking, there are a couple of comments and questions that came in. So I'd just briefly like to run through the questions so far, but thank you all once again, those who have managed to join us and make time for this particular meeting. So the first question is coming from Urias, who is joining us, I think, from Liberia. Urias' name has become very common or synonymous with our training since he's been joining us every single time we have a training event. So thanks for joining us yet again, Urias. And he's asking, how do we have access to the Digital Earth Africa data or information? What's the link? What URL can we use to be able to access it?
So thank you so much. As the chat is digitalearthafrica.org, and I think also you have you'll get the presentation from Ignatius since you registered as well, and we'll be able to contact with you and work closely with you. And it's even nice that you also came to this presentation as well. So we thank the University of Ghana for connecting us with you, and everybody that has joined. So we'll share the link with you as well.
Thank you. The other question was, is there any reason why the study focused mostly around the capital city area, Monrovia, and not the same with other coastal cities? I'm guessing he's talking about the use case where you actually demonstrated examples around Monrovia. So if you can just clear the air, that is not, your applications are not just limited to specific areas, and expand on it for him.
Oh, it's actually open to all areas. It's just that when you're the teacher and just doing the presentation, it's just some areas that I could capture. And those areas that were highlighted in red were just areas with hotspot areas. And of course, there were other coastal areas like in Fumene in Ghana, where it's not next to Accra, but it's also experienced quite some rates. So it's for the all areas. And just I was going through different areas, and across zone to that particular village, you'll actually see this change. And once again, this covers 38 countries, and all countries are covered on their coasts.
Okay. The next question is coming from Dr. Selassie Avonyo. He's asking, are the shorelines and rate of change data sets downloadable?
Yes, they are downloadable, and also they're accessible via the API. And also, since he's joined, he'll get access to the presentation, and hopefully he'll share with his friends. Akwaba Professor.
Thank you very much. And during the course of the presentation, I saw that a couple of hands were going up. Unfortunately, we have disabled your microphones to avoid any interruption during the presentations, but we welcome you to put all questions in the chat or the Q&A section for it to be answered. So in case you were not able to get your question across, please, you can type it either in the chat or the Q&A section, and I'll read it out for Dr. Mubia to be able to address it for you. And I also see we've got one of the beneficiaries of our postgraduate grants who was able to join us, Yusuf Owusu from University of Cape Coast also. Thank you for joining us in this session. Is there any other question? Okay, just before I proceed with the other set, I'll just quickly like to take advantage of this and get a group photo of our participants just for reporting. So if Kenneth, yes, thank you very much. If you can just turn on your cameras where you are, if you're comfortable with that. So we can have a quick group photo for okay, so I'd wait 10 more seconds. Oh, the more the cameras turn on, the more familiar faces I'm seeing. From Morocco, from Cape Verde, from Nigeria, from Ghana, from UCC. Okay. Is everybody in now? You have a few seconds to like take the shot. Okay, sorry, I have so many of you. I have to take another picture of my second screen. I don't want to leave anybody out of the photos. Okay. Yes, thank you very much. You can keep your cameras on if you want to. There's nothing wrong with that. I have no problem with that. Okay, so I'm going to continue with the next round of questions. So Dr. Mubia, I mean, you've been able to give us the overview of what Digital Earth Africa is doing so far, and there are so many different applications, and we haven't been able to go so deep into the various components of it. I'm just being an advocate here. The possibility of now having further sessions on specific themes where we can delve deep into just specific areas. Is there this possibility to continue in this line, in this trend of webinar series?
Yes, it's possible, and also through the moderation of the University of Ghana, it's possible to connect all countries and more specific topics. And I'm also joined by my colleague Joseph Tishimire, who can also greet the participants. because he'll be here because he speaks Portuguese and French as well and Arabic.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah,
Joseph, where are you? I can't see you. If you can just
Wonderful.
briefly introduce yourself also. Joseph is primarily going to be talking to our next group, the French participants. So he's also here, and I'll just give him a brief minute to just introduce himself as well.
Thank you, Ignatius. Kenneth, actually, I'm Joseph Tishimire, so I'm part of the South Africa team based in Kigali, Rwanda. So I'll be talking in an hour from now, translating what Ken has prepared. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And also, very good hello to the team from Libya, the Libyan Center of Remote Sensing. I see they've also joined us, and we're very happy that you guys could also join us all the way from Libya. And even those outside of Africa, I noticed that during the registration, we had people coming in from even Asia and Europe. We are very glad to have you as well. Dr. Ken, I think we still have a few minutes if you still want to give us a few words before we end the session.
Mine is to encourage the participants and also thanking them for joining us. And also if I was to do some justices to just show one video from our partner who's their voice will be very key for the great work that you've done, and we work with them closely with Joseph. Even just Joseph had a meeting with them just a few minutes ago. This is the Centers for Ecology. They have been very instrumental in the work we do in the coastline service, and I'll be able just to share the video in a second, as maybe, as you call it in Africa, a message from one of our partners is very diplomatic, because then once you show the work, you'll actually be able to appreciate the work is for everybody. And just checking if the screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, there it goes.
Coasts are an important part of the land on which we live. In order to protect these special areas, we must understand how they are being impacted by weather, changing climate, and expanding human population. Coastlines are fragile. They ebb and flow with each weather event. They are the first line of defense in a storm. They are the first to experience the rising sea levels. With a rapidly changing climate and growing populations, we must protect the fragile and vital ecosystems of the coastlines in Africa. Now we have the tools to help us understand and protect our coast. Introducing Coastlines, a new service from Digital Earth Africa.
L'outil Digital Earth Africa a été développé par Geosciences Australia en rapport avec le centre de sociologie. C'est un outil qui permet de suivre différents indicateurs par rapport aux risques côtiers, par exemple, dans le domaine qui nous intéresse. Et l'intérêt, c'est que ces images Landsat de moyenne résolution sont facilement accessibles, sont gratuites, alors que les images d'autorisation sont chères et pas forcément accessibles. Et nous, dans le cadre du travail que nous voulons faire, donc à l'échelle régionale, à long terme, il est beaucoup plus avantageux de pouvoir accéder à des images gratuites pour pouvoir pratiquer ce suivi d'indicateurs à long terme.
Through the use of satellite imagery and data, the Coastlines Monitoring Service allows users to map the location of the African coastline and identify patterns of coastal change. Using satellite imagery, Digital Earth Africa has created a full continental data set. By capturing where the land meets the sea, the Coastline Service visualizes and provides the rate of coastline change over time. Using the Coastline Service, we can see how beaches, mangroves, river mouths, and the tidal flats have grown and eroded over time. Digital Earth Africa's Coastline Service takes the lead from world-leading methods developed by the Digital Earth Australia team. In collaboration with implementing partners, the methods developed have been tested and validated through a truly global collaboration. With data freely available and updated regularly as it continues to be acquired, the service allows current rates of coastal change to be compared with that observed in previous years or decades, giving us the best holistic picture of the African coastlines we've ever had. Although still in the early stages, the Coastlines Monitoring Service is already having an impact.
On peut d'ores et déjà se projeter sur les perspectives d'usage. Donc, la première idée qui vient à l'esprit, c'est d'utiliser l'outil pour le suivi du trait de côte au niveau de 3 échelles, l'échelle régionale, l'échelle nationale ou bien l'échelle locale. Donc, l'autre idée qui vient à l'esprit, c'est de pouvoir utiliser l'outil Digital Earth Africa Coastline dans le cadre de l'Observatoire régional du littoral ouest africain pour le suivi de l'indicateur érosion et accrétion.
Le littoral ouest africain a quelques particularités, mais globalement, il y a également des spécificités qui sont partagées avec, par exemple, l'ensemble du littoral au niveau mondial. C'est une zone qui concentre beaucoup de personnes. 50% de la population urbaine est localisée au niveau du littoral. Il y a l'essentiel des activités économiques également est concentré au niveau de cet espace-là. Et sur le plan de la biodiversité, presque 50% du linéaire est composé de vasières à mangroves. Or, les mangroves, ce sont des zones de haute biodiversité qui regroupent beaucoup d'espèces végétales, halieutiques, etc.
Coastal erosion has both an economic and societal impact. By mitigating coastal erosion risk in 3 key sectors, Digital Earth Africa could inject some $460 million per year into Africa's economy and change the lives of around 270 million people. There is more we can do to help stem the tide, protect the special ecosystems in Africa. Through Digital Earth Africa Coastlines, we can plan for the future by unlocking the patterns of the past.
So thank you so much, Ignatius, and GMES and partners. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Before we go, please, we'll be sending you an evaluation of the training so far, and we'll also be following up with you with regards to the links to access the recordings and the slides which we have used today. Also in the chat right now, you would have a link to an evaluation on the webinar series. This is really important for us to help improve and plan our next steps for the activities that we'll be doing. For all our participants who joined us from the Gambia, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, we'll be having a training in the upcoming weeks, also on the MarCNoWA web application, which has been developed to monitor oil spill vessel monitoring and IUU infractions as well. If you are interested in that, you would be able to join to be able to see how you can utilize all this information. I think that is it for now. I'd like to thank Dr. Kenneth Mubia. You've done an excellent job with your presentation. And to everyone who's joined us in today's session, we hope you found the webinar informative and extremely useful. And again, as a reminder, we will share with you the recording and the resources as soon as they are available. Don't forget to check up on our future events, which will be organized by MarCNoWA, GMES-Africa, and any collaboration also that I'll be having with Digital Earth Africa. Thank you very much and have a great day.